Definitely got to grind, got to hustle. Can't do it all the time, but there's definitely seasons. What's my purpose? I have a lack of purpose and I feel like I don't make any progress. I don't go anywhere. I want to stay inside my comfort zone. One of the quotes on our wall is nothing great happens inside your comfort zone. I truly believe that. And the times when I've excelled, I'm always pushing that envelope a little bit. It sucks. It's scary. I don't enjoy it in the moment. But when I look back, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have risked. I want you to live with no regrets. You don't look in the rearview mirror, we're looking out of the windshield. I think it's along the lines of being an overcomer. Stuff happens, it's gonna happen. Accept those challenges and then become the person with who you'll become through what you learn. I don't think you'll ever be asked to do more than what you're capable of at that time.
Well, all right. Welcome to, I guess this is episode 1, but I did kind of do a pre-episode to this, just to set the stage for what in the world this thing was going to be about. But this is kind of the official episode 1 of the integrated podcast. So welcome. And we've got Peter Blumert as the initial guest on the podcast. So Peter, thanks for being here, brother. Peter, I'll give just kind of a quick background on Peter, what he's doing, and then I'll ask him to just share a little bit more. But Peter's a strength coach extraordinaire and business owner, husband, father, and probably wears about 28 or 29 other hats that I'm not aware of at this point. But give a quick kind of background, Peter, on what you're doing professionally, where you're at, what you're doing.
Oh man, well thanks for having me. And I just love speaking in front of people. So this is a much better audience for me. Man, lots of hats, that's for sure. Just like everything you mentioned, just my main goal kind of in life is just to invest and lead people and tell people and instruct and guide on things that I wish I'd have knew 20, 30 years ago. You know, the world is nuts and crazy these days. So trying to learn from my mistakes that I have made and the people who I've been mentored and learning from, and just trying to be able to share and be able to spread the knowledge, spread the wealth. Let's just make this world a better place.
Yeah. So you're, just context-wise, professionally right now, you're in Santa Barbara still, California, still Prevail Conditioning Performance Center, which has moved since I've left.
Mm-hmm.
A wonderful move. Which
that was fun.
A little bit later. Glad I was gone for that one. But okay, so still at Prevail Conditioning, and then we'll get into, like, if you're doing some other things at this point as well. I feel like you're starting to do a few other things. But quick background here. So Peter, reached out to Peter, I don't know, a few weeks ago and just said, hey man, I'm thinking about doing a podcast, right? The world needs another podcast with a middle-aged white guy. And so Peter said, what do I owe the honor of being the first guest on the show? And quite frankly, as I mentioned, there were 2 reasons. One is because I have no subscribers, I have no followers, and like I mentioned, our moms will probably be the only one listening to this one. So in fact, Peter is doing me a favor for being on this first episode. But in truth, the primary reason that I reached out to Peter was I thought for a while about who do I want to be the first person on this with me. And but 2 things came to mind. One was you shared this in conversations over the past few years, and it struck me again recently that I miss our conversations. We were in business for, 10 years, something like that together.
About.
So we talked about anything and everything every day, and frequently are referred to one another affectionately as our work wives. We talked about everything, and then it just stopped, right, for 3 years, and we haven't had the chance really to connect because you're super busy running the business. I'm doing who knows what. And so we don't get to talk anymore. So I thought, gosh, what a great way just to have an opportunity to catch up and see what's going on in work and in life, as well as all of the things that I really want this to be about, right? So training, right, manual therapy, and training would include like recovery, nutrition, all that stuff, business, leadership, sales, marketing, faith. All of those things really are what I want this thing to be about. And I thought, who would be a better person to start it off, because we talked about all of those things, right? That was all of those things that we talked about. So I thought how easy it would be to start with you, because that's all the stuff I love to talk about, that I want to talk about. And I think that you do as well. So thus Peter is the initial guest. Yeah. So here we go. So thanks for hanging with me today. I really appreciate it.
Looking forward to it.
Backstory. How did Peter and I get to know each other? And then we'll really just get into some questions. So I'll give my perspective, the brief perspective on how in the world we know each other. And then if I miss anything, you can jump in there. But Peter and I grew up, we grew up together actually. We're a little separated by age because I'm older by 4 years. 4 years. But we grew up in the same, old 5-0 this year. Yeah. Grew up in the same church, grew up in the same schools, small town in Northern California. And so we're separated by 4 years. So really I knew Peter's brother a little bit better than I knew Peter. But jump forward, gosh, post-college, get this mom reconnection. My mom says, hey, I was talking to Peter's mom. Did you know that Peter was in the industry of kinesiology? Had no idea. So somehow in our adult life, I think in our 20s, we reconnected, got together a couple times, I think, hung out. And all I really remember of those early conversations was that you were like this crazy dude having people pushing cars in parking lots. And I thought, like, dude, this guy's nuts. I don't know what he's doing. But kept in touch, kept in conversation. You were eventually out in Connecticut, training out there, working with your wife for the Olympics. And then we kept talking, kept sharing industry stuff. And then eventually, after that season had ended, there was hey, what if we tried to do this business thing together? And so we prayed about it. You and your wife eventually came out, jumped into the deep end with me, and then, holy cow, we were in business together for around about a decade. So that's kind of the quick backstory there. Any big things that I missed in that?
Nope, that's it. I mean, anybody that's younger than you don't know. People that are older, you look up to, you've heard, and I remember some athletic stuff you had done in high school, and just hear little tidbits. Like my brother, I think, was a year younger than you. But it's just, I always admired and looked up people that were more mature and had kind of a little bit of fruit on their trees and just had more experiences. And those were things I was craving and looking for. And, when my mom started talking about and gave me a kind of a brief history from what she had heard from your mom, it was like, yeah, that would be cool. I think email was just getting going. And so we were doing some of that. And I still remember when you were looking at open, the first brick and mortar Prevail, and like, hey, what do you like? What do you not like? And just kind of through that conversation, I was like, oh, wow, we think alike in a lot of ways that I don't always get with other people that I've talked to. So that's what kind of interested me. And my wife wanted to leave Connecticut. And I said, hey, I got a great idea. And we came out, and you were literally the only person we knew in Santa Barbara. And I think I had restarted my training career per se. This was going to be my 4th location, going from a full, hey, who do I not want to train anymore because I'm booked. I got to turn people away to like, hey, anybody want to train with me? I need to make some money because I don't know anybody. So that was by far the hardest, but knowing kind of where your heart was for business, for training, for people, the integrity, the character, there's just a lot of things that I was like, I like this guy. I think there's more to it. I think there's some really cool things that could be there once we kind of get a few layers deep that is much more than just a superficial thing. So those were the things that attracted me and wanted me to like, here we go, God, let's do this.
Yeah. And if we can remember, we'll try and remember to circle back to some of those wonderful, what I would say was maybe from other people's perspective, big mistakes that we made in the business early on that I think there was just so much of God's provision and protection in what we did, because we did a lot of stuff wrong, and Prevail's still going. We made it, and we ended our time together, I think, well. I was so thankful that all of that ended well. So there's so many things in there, and we're just going to throw out there on the front end of this, maybe a 2-parter, because as Peter and I started talking, there's no way we're going to get through everything that we want to talk about today. Start with the first question here, kind of an intro question. I've been thinking about how to frame this for a while. I think it's going to take on some different forms here, some different iterations. But I'll start with this. So I'm a movie fanatic. I love movies, and there's a scene in Braveheart that I love. There's another scene in Dead Poet Society that I always kind of come back to in my mind. And the scene that I think about a lot in Braveheart is where I think it's one of their first big battles, and so Mel Gibson's like, he's riding back and forth on his horse, and These guys, he's like, I'm William Wallace. And they say, you're not William Wallace. William Wallace is 7 feet tall, right? Or something like that.
Mm.
And so he's trying to convince these guys to stay and fight, right? Because they're all going to bail. I think it's maybe at the Battle at Dunkirk or something, but I could totally be butchering that. Anyways, the gist of it is he says something to the effect of, if you stay and fight, you might die. And if you run, you'll live for a while. But you'll still die. And many years from now on your deathbed, would you trade all the days from this day to that to do something of value, to do something of meaning? And for him at that phase, it was fighting for freedom. So kind of context-wise, my question to you is, something that you and I have talked multiple times about over the years is having an impact and influence and doing the best that you can with what you have, right, available to you. So the question to you would be is, in the context of that, when this life comes to an end, what do you want people to say about you? What are the things that, right, that you want to have been known for when you walk away from this life?
Deep question, man, right from the get-go.
Right.
Like,
Yeah. Heavy hitter from the get-go.
Yeah. I think it's kind of along the lines of being an overcomer. Stuff happens, it's going to happen. There's nothing you can do to stay away from that unless you live in this little tiny bubble. But kind of accept those challenges and then let them kind of let you become the person with who you'll become through what you learn. I don't think you'll ever be asked to do more than what you're capable of at that time. If you look back and, 5 years from now and you're like, oh, that'd have been a piece of cake because of who the person I've become today. So where, kind of meet people where they're at. That's kind of our motto at Prevail, is meet them where they're at, join them on their journey and help them kind of overcome that next obstacle through who knows what, but just mainly being there for that person. So, for me, being known for somebody who kind of challenged and pushed people, but not too much, and helped them realize their potential. That would be, I think, a really cool thing to be known as. And then, somebody just like, hey, I want you to live with no regrets. You don't look in the rearview mirror, we're looking out of the windshield. Where do we want to go? Where do we want to go? Let's learn from what's behind us, but help us shape us into this new person with who we're becoming that's ever and always evolving. Something along those lines, I think, would be what I'd love.
Yeah. I appreciate that. I think I can say, like, from our experience and our time together, I can appreciate those things about you. I think that was something that I was able to lean on in our business, you in that regard. I think that I always knew that whatever happened, like, we'll deal with it, we'll move on. And I think that was something that you were always better at than I was not having an overactive or excessively emotional response, right? You whether or not you internalize that, maybe, but there wasn't an overshot, an overreaction emotionally. It was, well, this is awful, and that was one of your favorite words. This is awful, but we'll figure it out. We'll move on.
Yeah, and that was one thing that I was looking for too, is like being kind of in that ownership mindset. Something I've always done, an entrepreneur kind of my entire life, and I've worked for somebody, then worked as an independent contractor, and then jumping in with you and just having somebody to bounce and mentor and stuff where like, hey, I'm in it together, where it's not addition, it's more multiplication. There's so much more we can do together, and then developing a team, which had been so new to me at that time. But I just knew like, that's where it's at. When it's just on my shoulders only, it's a whole different story. But when there's people that I can rely on and people that are also relying on me, okay, cool. I feel like I have a place, and now I can be more that kind of level-headed person, and trying to think more the areas that, why should we focus on the areas that we haven't succeeded as opposed to those that we can. So that kind of glass half full type mentality, and just keep the lens there. And if you were there, then I felt like I could go the other direction, so that we could kind of balance each other out, where we're not both down or we're not both up. It's like, there's this, but hey, let's come back with this, and then continue to move forward.
Yeah, agreed. Over the last few years, I think I've heard many different people in entrepreneurship and business talk about the hustle, the grind, that sort of thing. And I think one of the guys in particular that is well known for saying that, it would be Gary V, or Gary Vaynerchuk. You heard of him? Okay. Yeah. I would say he's definitely one of those guys who encompasses and pushes forward that sort of thinking, in that you've got to do that stuff. to be successful and like never be content, right? You've always got to be striving. On the flip side, I've heard the exact opposite, the complete 180 of that, which is be content. You may not, be content, not necessarily satisfied with where you're at in growth, but be content at all times. And grinding is ridiculous. It's silly because it's going to create burnout, right? You're getting burned out. You're going to get depressed. You're going to get overwhelmed by that. Do you find that you lean more one way or the other? Do you find that like the hustle and the grind it's necessary to be successful in business, or do you lean the other way?
Definitely got to grind, got to hustle. Can't do it all the time, but there's definitely seasons. To me, like if I feel like it's the other way, like my purpose, what's my purpose? I have a lack of purpose and I feel like I don't make any progress. I don't go anywhere. I want to stay inside my comfort zone. One of the quotes on our wall is nothing great happens inside your comfort zone. And I truly believe that. And the times when I've excelled, I'm always kind of pushing that envelope a little bit. It sucks. It's scary. I don't enjoy it in the moment, but when I look back, I'm like, oh, if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't have progressed to where we were. Like moving the gym was 100% there. Like I had many sleepless nights, and it was one of the challenges there is like, I didn't have somebody else to kind of talk and go about. I'm like, oh God, what are we going to do? But I think that was a huge leap of faith and helped increase my dependency, not on myself, but on God, to be able to progress and say, hey, I got you. Trust me. So for me, it's like, oh, I can't just sit here and do nothing. Why? I'm trusting. It's like, no, I know things I can do. I'm going to do today. What can I get done? How can I move forward? Go to bed at night. Okay, what's my plan for tomorrow? So I can at least do those small little steps, knowing that there's things that are outside of my control. But, grinding is just a part of it. And personally, I don't think I've known any really successful entrepreneurs or mentors of mine who have ever kind of lived by that latter motto. It's like, no, it's going to happen. Yes, you got to be careful. You're going to be threatening that kind of burnout stage. But in order to move forward, you got to do it. And then you got to find that little period of rest, or let your body kind of recoup, revamp, and then something kind of reignite. Let's go.
Yeah. Okay. You mentioned this, and I wanted to come back to it. The quotes on the wall at Prevail. I remember when I was there with you, I think we had a document that we were starting to develop of the quotes that we were thinking about. Thankfully, after I left, you finally got up your quotes on the wall. What quotes do you have on the wall, and why those?
Yeah. Let's see. So kind of taking a step back, like stuff from drawing a blank. The UCLA coach Wooden. Love so much of his stuff. I think it's just phenomenal and amazing for all areas of life, but they're all super long. So I was like, what can we do in like 5 words or less? So that's kind of one of the overriding themes as we were trying to do it. In our list, we had so many, but like, I love this, way too long. I'm looking at stencil that stuck up on the wall. But so the 4, so the first one I mentioned was nothing great happens inside your comfort zone. Progress, not perfection. Intensity cannot replace intensity. And your daily habits determine your success. And those, so we kind of, I don't remember how we narrowed it down, but then we kind of took a vote amongst the staff. Those were here and just try to pressure test. Why this? Why that? Does it fit in this area? Does this fit in this area? Because we really wanted anybody who walked into the gym, whatever stage of life they're at, whatever their struggles are, whatever their goals they want to move towards, can these relate to all of them? And so that's where we kind of came up with these 4. I don't think there was a magic number. Now looking in the gym, it kind of came out pretty cool we have a long rectangular gym versus what we had before. So it kind of fits well, but some days it's like, I'll be standing there, I'll be coaching and I'll look up and one of those things will just kind of burn a hole in my brain, my heart, whatever, something that I'm dealing with in that moment. And I'm like, yes, go back to that. So those are the main 4, why we picked it, why we like it. And I think we've been in this current place now for a little over a year. And, I think those ring truer than they ever have before. Yeah.
What was the intensity one? Intensity does not replace.
Intensity cannot replace, intensity cannot replace consistency.
Okay. That's what
I might have swapped that. But yeah.
I like those. What are your mornings and what do your evenings look like? Are you a believer in the morning routine? Are you one of those guys? Do you have like a thing that you do and you feel like that creates a lot of value for you? Is there a routine thing that you do in the evenings? What do those look like for you?
I'll try to be brief because this could be long. But yeah, it's kind of like these daily habits determine your success. One of the quotes on the wall. I really feel like how you start today is a great reflection of how your day is going to go. I'm a huge believer in gratitude. I think a great way to start and end your day. If you wake up and you're pissed at the world, you're going to probably have a pissy day. So if I can do this quickly, I'd say, like some stuff that I want in the morning, there's always there's some hydration, there's some sort of kind of quiet reflection, breath, meditation, something along those lines. There's some movement, there's some morning sunlight. Those are probably some of my big heavy hitters that I do. So I have little stuff that if we want to dive in, we can, little things that to me that check all those boxes that are really important to have done. And then how you set your day again will cause you how to end your day. So those that, again, really trying to set circadian rhythm, I really, really think morning sunlight is so important. So getting that early will help set you up for at night and trying to get, as the colors start to change, that evening routine, having some time to kind of wind down, some more of that meditation, breath, reading something non-stimulating, which sometimes is hard for me because that's what I want to read. And then now I can't sleep. Again, what's something that's great that's happened today? What's something I can share about my wife, my kids, my staff, a friend, something along those lines. Sometimes it's even a little quick text while it's on my mind, or just trying to write it down more because I'm suck at that. I'm really good at putting stuff up here, internalizing, but very rarely does it come out. My wife would be the first to talk about that. You know that as well as anybody. But just, and then kind of like, what are the top 3 things I need to get done tomorrow to move the needle? And my wife jokes around me, sort of like, I'll go from one to the next. And one of my, kind of a leadership meeting we had a couple of weeks ago with my staff is something that'd be helpful for me is to start and finish projects. Phenomenal at starting. You look at my computer, I might have 100 tabs open. I wonder why, because I didn't finish any of them. But one thing led to the next. And I'm just a very curious person and want to learn and want to know more. And that's one of the downfall. So that's something I'm working hard on now, having my, what's my top 2 or 3 things that I'm going to do. And I'm trying to plug it in my schedule. So I tell my schedule when I'm getting done versus the schedule telling me when I'm going to get done. It's something that I've been working hard on. So I think it's priority, having a morning and evening routine, figuring out what works for you, checking some of those boxes that we talked about, I just think are very, very helpful and being successful.
I can't relate with the tab thing at all on the computer. Yeah, I never had that problem. Those are good. I can relate with a lot of those as well. And I think for me, that has become a staple. I found the further I went along in my adult life, as you and I talked about, like I've never been a morning person. Mornings have been brutal for me. So I found over the years that I actually had to get up earlier to give myself time to ease into the day and have those things. And those have made a huge difference for my life. So many of those things are similar.
One super
Yeah,
cool
go ahead.
thing just started Tuesday and this morning
Yeah.
is my son, he's 9. And we have talked a little here and there about maybe doing some workouts and training together kind of first thing in the morning. Cause I coach early Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So Tuesday, Thursday, I was like, hey, if you want to do something at 6:30, because I use some of the old equipment and I saved purposely some rubber flooring and I built a little home gym. Because I know as the kids get older and there's times that I'm like, I can't train at the gym, or I was like, no, I just need to leave.
Yep.
Or my wife can't go, and just having something there. But I really love it, especially for the kids as they get older and have their buddies come over. Just a way to be around and to kind of mentor and be, something that's not a way I can give back to these guys. So Tuesday morning, my wife's like, do not wake him up. If he's tired, he's been sleeping until 7:15 every day, and it's dark still because the time change hasn't happened. And then Tuesday morning, like 6:30 on the button, he walks up, goes over, pee. Dad, are we working out? And I was like, what?
All right.
Like, you didn't set your alarm, did you? He was like, no, I just woke up and it said 6:30. And I'm like, that's amazing. So with our first time, and it was just super cool, and it was fun to just affirm him a ton in the moment, outside the moment, and that's all I could think about all day. It was like, awesome. Here's a small little way to give back. And it's something that's can be fun that we can do to build our relationship and just do a little bit of teaching, but mainly have fun.
Yep.
So that was super cool. And I'm excited for when your son gives you the green light. But it was just really important for me not to pressure, not to push. And just when they're ready, they're ready.
Yep. Did I tell you that Jameson and I have had some workouts?
No.
Yeah.
You sent me a
Yeah,
video of him kind of messing around with like I think an adjustable dumbbell or something.
Yes. Yeah. His workouts and his exercises are very unique. They're very creative. But yeah, it's probably been over the last at least year and a half. There's been days
Oh,
where
wow.
he's like, I want to get up and work out with you. And I won't wake him up unless he asks me to. And I have a couple times, and then he'll come down and he'll just play. It's just super fun. I love that. And that's so fun that you guys are doing that.
Such a cool time that, yeah, you'll never regret.
Yeah, not at all. It's been super fun and brought a lot of smiles to my face as he's taught me several new exercises that I've never seen before.
Can't wait to see it.
Yeah, yeah. This is something that's come up a lot of times over the years. The whole concept of getting up early is like you have to do that to be successful, right? Kind of that whole what's the saying? Oh, early bird gets the worm, or early to bed, early to rise. That whole thing. Agree with that? Think it's a bunch of crap?
I believe most people have a certain sleep chronotype that, and it can shift and change, and most likely through somebody's lifespan, they will probably be every one of them. For me, is getting people to understand where they thrive, where they do their best, depending on what it is that they want to do. Like when I'm program writing, when I'm doing vision stuff for the business, when I'm mentoring people, like there are certain things I like to do at certain times of the day that I feel like I'm more successful at. So to me is, I would say, I mean, kind of like a lead into nutrition too, is figuring out what works for you and then do it for a season and then reflect. How did it go? What went well? What didn't go? What do I want to do moving forward? So to me, I would say it's more of that is more important. If people are struggling to get up and they're just half awake and they're just, oh man, but man, they put their kids to bed, it's 8 o'clock and they're like, man, my brain is alive. Awesome. If that's your creative time, great. If your movement time's here, you know, to me, it's just figure out what it is for you. If you're unsure, pick one, start with it, and then reflect.
Yep.
So
that's interesting. I've not heard somebody say that about potentially having those shifts over the course of life. And I feel like you have a better grasp on sleep stuff than I do. But that's an interesting thought. And I think perspective wise, and so many of these things, as you mentioned, we have similar perspectives. That's been one of the things that's irked me over the years, is you have to get up early to be successful. And I think that that's just so ridiculous. Because people have, different circadian rhythms. They have different times where they feel like they're locked in. And one of the things that people have asked us so many times over the years is, do I need to train early for it to be most effective? And, my answer, I think, has always been like, you need to train when you're going to train. Like, let's start there and deal with life. And then great, if you get good at that, then there might be a season of, oh, I could do that, or I could move that there. So I really like your perspective on that. Another thing, maybe a little bit of a lead into where I'm going here, but I heard someone say this recently. There is greater joy in the pursuit of the goal than in winning. There's greater joy in the pursuit of the goal than in winning. How does that strike you?
yeah, I would say as a whole, the journey. That's why we always, with our clients, that's really important, is we're going to walk alongside your journey, because it never looks like this. There's so much of this going on, and that's where life lessons are learned. Getting on the mountaintop and winning, oh, that's so cool, that's amazing, but that doesn't last. Yeah, my wife's story with her Olympic journey is a perfect example of that. She achieved her goal at 6 years old when she was in kindergarten. She wrote a little essay and said, it was whoever wrote an essay, and the coach got to pick who was going to carry out the torch for opening ceremonies. And she really, really wanted to do that. So she wrote a story about why she wanted to Olympian at 6. And her parents may still have it. I haven't read it, but I've heard her mention it so many times that I'm like, hey, if you have this, we got to find it. But just hearing all of that and just everything that went through that process through a completely different route than she ever thought. She ended up making the Olympics, and then even cooler, she went bronze, which was way above and beyond. But when we look back, I was like, that was such a cool little thing, but she didn't really learn anything from it. All those things leading up to it, all those coaches telling her she would never be successful, people telling her that she's dumb, and, just not finding her reason, her why, and to do all those things versus just that icing on the cake. And I feel like now that we've been married, 13 years, like I feel like marriage is so much of just that in itself. Like the wedding leading up to it, all that, that's so cool. That's amazing. Something you'll never forget. I didn't hardly learn a thing through there. Like all those things that led up to it and these periods of stress. And then after, and these day-to-day, the living, the grind. And you have kids and you're just trying to survive. And sometimes having time on your schedule to talk for 2 minutes is like, I'm so tired, and it's just, there's just not a lot there. But when we look back, all those things that we really learned and what have created some roots and some foundation has been all those, that journey aspect, not that mountaintop experience, not this 10-year anniversary thing that we got to do. I was like, that's so cool, but that does not shape us really into the people we are, the relationship that we have built. It's those living in the day-to-day grind. It's our journey that has created that, and those things that, again, when those storms come, like, can we withstand it? Or are we just going to call it quits and move on because it's just too much?
Yeah. Let's take that kind of into your wife's stuff, because I did want to hit on that a little bit. So for those of you that don't know, Peter's wife competed in, is the event called Bobsled?
Technically, it's, I don't know if it's two men or two women bobsled, even though it's two girls competing and they're legit girls. So
yeah. Exactly. So Peter's wife competed in the 2010 Winter Olympics
in Vancouver,
and won a bronze medal in that Olympics, which was crazy. I actually remember watching that. Matter of fact, I think I was I was at home group and with Fred Fisher, and I don't know if you ever met the Seversons, but I was like, hey man, I think my you guys were dating at that point, right?
Yeah. Okay. We got married in 2011.
Yeah. So I said, man, I think my buddy's girlfriend is competing right now. It's like during our home, we're like, can we flip it on? And I remember watching that. And anyway, so questions about that. So sorry, Peter's wife competed then, won a bronze medal, which was just insane. And wanted to just talk about that a little bit. What was it like? What was life like walking through that with her? And so really more from your perspective, right? Not her story, but your story. What was it like walking through that with her? Really is, because you were wearing two hats there, which again is still insane to me. That work, that you were boyfriend and strength coach at the same time, which is intense. What was it like walking through that season with her? I mean, you could even kind of talk about that. What was it like after, and even jumping forward to now, as you might bleed into some of these thoughts? What is it like looking back through that lens now? How do you guys view that and that season of your life? But start with really, what was it like walking through that as boyfriend and strength coach?
Yeah, that was crazy time, to put it simply. So we met at the Olympic Training Center in Lake Placid, New York in 2004. I went out there. I was just finishing my master's in Texas, and I was working with some weightlifters. Some of the weightlifters were talking about the sport of bobsled, and hey, if I don't make it in this, we're going to try this. And it's like, what the heck is that? What's bobsled? I was just, I wanted a purpose, something to train for, which I think is, again, it's really important to get to that another time. So I was doing some stuff, training for a combine for an arena football team that was just starting in Texas. I didn't have any desire really to play, but I loved having a purpose, and I loved the combine events, and I was pretty good at some of them. And I wanted to be a little white boy from California that could compete against some of these guys in Texas. So anyway, so doing that, went there. There was a men's camp there, and there was a few women resident athletes there. And I remember she was one of them, and I was with, I don't know, 35, 40 dudes. And I remember seeing her and be like, holy cow, like, who's that? Just because she, was pretty, but also just strong, explosive, aggressive. I just remember, like, the quote from our wedding, my first response was like, man, her back is jacked. Just all this muscle that I've never seen on just a typical female. I was like, that's really cool. I've never seen that before. So anyway, so we got to know each other just and through competing a little bit. I was on the minor league team. I couldn't make the big leagues, so I was on the minor league circuit. She was competing in the World Cup. She was a push athlete at that time, the brakeman. And then, started actually going Bible study together. And I was like, hey, there's something a little bit different about her. And then we started dating in 2005. The Torino games were in 2006. She was between her and one other gal from making the team. The other gal who she ended up getting married with, ended up picking her friend as opposed to Aaron. Arguably, they were pretty dang similar. So this other girl picked her. They've changed the bylaws because of some of these athlete choice versus coach's decision. So she ended up switching to being a driver. Like I said, I was a couple sleds out from making it. I knew I was done. I stopped. I ended up moving out to Connecticut because that was one of my new places I started training, because the women's athletic trainer / physical therapist that traveled with them that year, I got to know him. He lived in Connecticut. He knew
Oh.
Aaron relatively well from that and was like, hey, why don't you come work for me? I moved to Connecticut because I was like, I had no home. I was just finishing in Texas and it was like, well,
Yeah.
now what? And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I'm done bobsledding. I don't get paid. I don't have any money anyway, so it's only going to
Yeah.
get worse. So cool, I'll move out there. That way we can, start growing our relationship a little bit. And, I lived in her brother's basement for $100 a month. Thank you, Jeff. I appreciate you. Just because I was like, I had nothing starting over again. I bought her old car for $400 from her or something like. But then we would train together because she was still actively competing. Like I said, she had switched to becoming a driver. And then her strength coach was still running the program. So we just trained together so we could kind of help build our relationship, be around. And then probably about 2 years after that, we were like, what if I think she might have mentioned it, like, what if you started coaching me? We're already doing this together. I'm already doing some stuff, trying to improve some of her patterns. And so we kind of thought and talked and reflected, and then we're like, this sounds hard. But for me, I'm like, I think you could be absolutely amazing. Let's do it, because the coach in me was like, heck yeah, we're going to make you a stud. She already was a phenomenal athlete, but we took some of her movements, like some of the Olympic stuff. She had some bad habits, bad tendencies, and just try to rip it from the floor, catch it wide. And I'm like, the whole point is force application into the ground, especially the second pull. You don't do that well. And that started the whole process. But through coaching her, like she taught me a lot of things. One, being able to compartmentalize. When we're in the gym, we're on the track, here's your hat. When we leave, take that hat and leave it there. Put your other hat on when we get in the car. Really, really hard for me. Yeah, I know you never agree with that. But so that was good. And she kind of taught me and gave me a little bit of the why behind that. What's so important? Because for me, it was just, I was always on in that. I'd wake up middle of the night thinking about stuff because I just had such high expectations because she was a gifted athlete, but not crazy gifted. If you see her parents, you'd be like, where the heck did you come from?
Yeah.
Your parents, from an athletic standpoint, I don't see it. But she also gave me a perspective, especially from a female, like, I feel like I can do nothing right. And I was like, what do you mean? She's like, well, 95% of what I hear out of your mouth is all things I need to improve and fix. And I never realized that. She's like, you coach these other people. I see you doing that. And it's the opposite. Why? And I was like, I think it's more how I would want to be coached. And I also see your potential. These girls and guys that I'm working with that are, a little lower levels, I'm like, I don't see that for them. So I'm trying to do everything I can to encourage and grow and uplift it, let them know there's more there. Your ceiling is so much higher than where you're at now. But she's like, I need to hear that. That's important to me. Otherwise, what's the point? I sound and feel like a failure. And it was a really cool thing that she did that and pointed that out because I was blinded. So that was super helpful. And then, so we started 2008 through the 2010 games. From a performance standpoint, starting over was hard. Some things, like I said, we didn't change too much other stuff. We broke it down, going from the beginning. She was very frustrated because she had done one way. So changing some of the motor behavior, motor patterns that she had was really, really hard. But she was willing to put an effort and I appreciated that. But as soon as the season got going, she'd be gone. So it was really, really hard for us to connect and stay connected. This is pre-FaceTime, pre-Zoom. I don't know how much money we were trying to spend on international calling cards and cell phones. They'd been out for a little bit, I think, but it was hard. There was many times, and then you start putting in a time zone difference of 6 to 9 hours, depending on what coast I was on. And it was cool because I knew what the atmosphere was like being a bobsledder for a couple seasons and understanding what it's like. And when she was talking about just being exhausted, when she did 2 runs, but she was at the track for 5 hours and just always being cold and the strain on her body from picking up these big, heavy bobsleds, that are 2 inches off the ground, so it's not like you have to pull from a bar with whatever the radius of the bar or for the plates are, so 11.5 inches. So you're just always putting yourself in these bad situations. And you might be at the track 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. You haven't really warmed up. It's freezing cold inside those sheds where those sleds are kept. And, it's just wear and tear on the body. And just being in the cold, and then for her having to study and learn the tracks, and then also having to train and then practice her lines, and having her driving coach, and then having her lifting, and then having her recovery, and then trying to find time just to chill. Like, it was one of those things that she tells her friends or parents, like, I don't understand. Like, you should be able to go sightsee. You're in Italy, you're in France, why don't you get to do all that stuff? It's like, I literally don't have time and I'm exhausted and I want to be successful. Yeah. So it was just nice to have that aspect. But like I said, from our relationship, it severely strained some of our relationship with certain things that were going on and things that she wanted me to just be 100% on her team. And it was hard for me because I was seeing a different perspective at times and really challenged, our faith journey and where we were at there. So it almost tore us apart, just wearing those two hats. It's kind of fun to joke around and look back on now, but some of those were just hard. Like I joked around the little apartment I was living when I'd be on the phone or waiting for her to call, like I wore out a path because I just can't stop moving. And just that nervous energy, I just don't know what to do with it. Which is why I like doing this. I was like, I need to stand. I can't sit. I'll go crazy. So it was brutal. But like I said, it's just that journey, like we talked about earlier, that's what made us who we are, where we are today. Gives us some of those fun stories, some of those fun perspectives, things to talk about. I've had many other people that are like, hey, like my boyfriend or my girlfriend, we're looking at doing this, or my wife. And it's just like, well, here's the pros and cons that we experienced. You make the decision. I'm not going to make it for you.
Yeah.
If I went back, and I don't know if we would do it again, or we would have little better boundaries and guidelines set up front, as opposed to trying to figure that out before. Just again, for me, like pre-marriage counseling, like before people are even get engaged, I'm like, really get to know who this person is and do it as soon as possible. Because as soon as you get some of these feelings, emotions going on, some of your logic just goes bye-bye, and then all of a sudden later down the line, you're like, so did I make a mistake? Was this, and for me, marriage is so sacred and it's a one and done thing. One of the biggest decisions in your life that you will ever make. So I'm like, do it immediately, do it now. I mean, hey, we've only been together 3 months. I don't care. If you see a potential with this person, ask those tough questions now. Because later down the line, again, you're going to be seeing it through a different lens and you may regret it.
Yeah.
So,
dude, I still have no idea how you guys did that.
I don't, there's a lot of things that are outside of our control. What held us together was some thin threads at times.
Yeah. Jeez. That is amazing.
But the Olympic experience was amazing. It was like her, like she was USA 2, I think. Yeah. I can't remember. It seems so hard. Every 4 years, we do a mock Winter Olympics, and it's fun to relive her story, hear it from her mouth, see the runs, and then it refreshes a lot of things. And she will bring up on stuff that I've never heard her say that before. So it's a really cool thing for me. And the whole reason is, we started it was to honor her and her story, and just, we love the Olympics and we love what they stand for. Maybe not what they are anymore, but what they originally were intended for. And I think it's just a cool thing when people go above and beyond themselves and compete for our country versus me, myself, and I. Yeah. And I love that aspect of it, and just being there, being to be a part of it, and getting to not let her know what we're going to do and have her name written on our chest and holding the American flag was just so cool. And one of those fun things to just relive. And our kids think it's crazy, and they of course still don't really understand the amount of work and the amount of sacrifices that she had to make, the amount of time she had to say no to things that we just take for granted, because she was so committed to her journey and her process and trying to be the best version of herself.
Yeah. Always curious about that. Like when you have kids as an elite athlete, when they kind of get it, like, oh my gosh, you did that, or you can do that thing. Have you seen that in your kids? Had the light gone on that, oh my gosh, she
Not
did
yet.
that?
No, we're actually going to World Championships in Lake Placid in March. It's a pre-Olympic year, and the Olympics are in 26. Okay. And Erin's teammate from 2010, that was her second year, I think, as a push athlete. She switched to being a driver, kind of like Erin did. And she's medaled in every Olympics, 10, 14, 18, 22. Still has never won gold, done silver and bronze.
Oh my gosh.
Just such a really amazing gal. She's got 2 kids with special needs. How she does what she do blows my mind. But this will be her last one. So she'll be there. There might be one other person that we know, but we want to go while it's on home soil. In March, it's nice because it's not near as cold. It probably won't be sub-zero. So that'll be amazing because our kids are pansies because they've grown up in Santa Barbara. And then, so they get to experience and see it. And I think it'll come to life a little bit more for them. And I have a hunch this will help move them there. Yeah. They're both fairly athletic, work ethic, questionable, but they're 9 and 7. So it's,
okay, that's what I was going to ask.
I got to remember 9 and 7, 9 and 7, what was I doing? Not what they're doing. So, so it's fun just to see the stuff that they want to do and the stuff they've been around. growing up, in the gym and coming and playing and thinking it's
Yeah.
normal for people to go to the gym.
Mhm.
And I was like, no, you guys, it's not
Yeah.
like not everybody does what you do.
Yep. Yeah. Not so much.
So I'm excited when that clicks. I'm not sure when it'll be, but it's going to be cool.
On the topic of the kids again, I think this is always a question that is there for parents, one, and then for, former athletes, two. And this is something that, that I think you and I, as being in the gym and strength and conditioning coaches, we also view through that other lens of, oh my gosh, what are parents doing to their kids with all the expectations and pressures? So you view this through a number of different lenses, but through your lens, and also you are not a slouch athlete, in the things that you did, and obviously, with Aaron's success. How do you guys navigate the athletic thing with your kids? Is it a thing for you guys, or is it a non-issue, like them being in sports, or the expectations of their sporting capabilities? How are you guys navigating that?
Well, like I said, we're pretty early in this process. We knew once that started, it probably won't end for a long, long, long time. So like my son, we're waiting till he was like begging, please let me play before we said yes. Cause we knew, like I said, it was just going to be the beginning. So that was something that was important to us. Just play. Like hey, let's go play catch. What are we doing? Football, baseball, wiffle ball, soccer, like you pick, just trying to get exposure to different things and just develop just coordination and just more the love of play. That was our biggest thing as they are young, and still is. And not trying to early specialize. Unfortunately, Santa Barbara here, it's like soccer is, you have your AYSO and then you got club. And where we're at, and the coaches you could get, it's like, oh man, AYSO, there's not much learning. We want to learn. So we went club there, but we're going to play something else too, or we're going to do some other things. So he just played flag football, just finished. They made it to the semifinals. The semifinals are tomorrow against the number 1 seed. They're the 12th seed. It's 1, 2, 3, and 12 that made it. How they did, I don't know, but it was so cool. The playoff games last week, kids just played well as a team. The couple parents of the coaches, awesome. I wish all coaches, when kids were young, had coaches like these guys. They're not the most skilled, but they make it fun, and they're focusing on just the fundamentals and having fun. That's all kids need to do when they're young. And some of the pressure that these kids end up doing, all these privates and investing, and I'm like, that's a lot of pressure. And Aaron and I have high expectations, I guess, to put it simply. So like if somebody, like Aaron joked at me, she's like, Peter, I want you to wear a heart rate monitor in Eli's next game, just because I want to see what happens, because I don't necessarily express a lot, but inside I go nuts. Where she's much more like, you can see by looking at her what's happening. For me, you're like, I'm not really sure. But then you check my pulse and you're like, holy cow, man, what are you doing?
That sounds about right.
So that's a process, something that we're working on better. It's just share, open up instead of waiting and waiting and waiting. And then, so yeah, kids just, like I said, not putting too much expectations, getting them to just have fun. And then something I ask almost after every practice, every game, hey, what did you do well today? Okay, hey, great. What do you want to get better at for next time? And letting them answer. It's so hard for me sometimes because I want to answer, but letting them do it. And then, cool, great. And then we move on. So it kind of gets closer. And sometimes, like, especially my daughter, Dad, I don't want, not today. Like, no, this is a part. Like, we made a commitment. This is what we do. And that's another important to us. It's like, if we say we're going to do it till here, we're going to do it till here. And at that point, if you want to do something different or quit, great. I don't care. But just having those opportunities then, and just letting them learn some of these great skills that can only be taught in sport, and being with other people and other teams, and learning to challenge yourself, and learning like, hey, if I want to get better, I got to do things outside of practice. I got to do things outside of there. I got to do things when people aren't watching. I'm not doing this for accolades. I'm doing this because I can better myself. So those are the kind of big lessons that we want, and we want to teach through our actions, through our words, through what we do. Hey, I'm exhausted, I'm tired, but I'm going to do it anyway because I said I would.
Dude, that's good. I think we had talked about this topic so many times over the course of the years: the early specialization stuff, the long-term athletic development model, the atmosphere that was going on. And it was not just in Santa Barbara, right? I mean, just all across the United States. But of course, certain things are intensified in certain areas. But this idea, like the year-round sports, and then these parents bringing their kids in, like they need to get faster. They need to get because they're 10, 12 years old, and they've got to get a scholarship, that sort of thing. That stuff. I think there was a reaction within me, even like with my kids. Like I was not a good athlete in high school. Like I was a very average athlete. I was just kind of much like in my professional life, which we've joked about. I was the jack of all trades and the master of none, right? It's the same thing professionally. And so I never had that, right? But or that specialization, or was doing year-round stuff. But as I watched other people do it with their kids, and then want that extra boost from us to help them get to the next level, I think now at this phase of my life, watching my kids grow up, there is a reaction to that where I think similarly, I'm like, I don't know if I want them in sports. Let's just wait. Let's play. Let's go kick the ball around on the rocks, kind of thing, when he asks. Or let's just go hunt around in the forest and pick up sticks and stuff, and just, walk on logs and just play and do whatever, not formalized or organized. So I resound with that a lot as well. So it's good to hear you say that, but know that it's a struggle for other people too.
Big time.
Dude. Okay. So we need to wrap up here, because we're kind of at the end of our time. So we got through about 2 questions of the 40 that I wrote down. Oh, one thing I forgot to mention, I don't know if you noticed, but I wanted to say I represented today. I wasn't sure if you noticed that, but I wanted to represent on
looks good on you, man.
The Prevail logo. I was tempted to wear the original one, but I decided to wear your guys' newer one.
Well, I was looking for a nice little medium for you, so I wasn't sure what would fit well. So.
Yeah, it's all right, whatever. Fat and old. But yeah, we're gonna bring our time to a close here. We'll definitely have to do a part 2, because there is about 30 or 40 more questions I want to come back to. So there will be a part 2 with Peter. But bro, it's so fun to talk and hang out for a little while again. Like I said before, I honestly feel like God is pushing me into doing this thing just so I could get hangout time with people that I love and like talking to about stuff that that He's kind of put on my heart and that I share similar interests with. So super fun to hang out and talk about just some stuff. And I do want to circle into some more business stuff. And we didn't even touch on training today. Good grief. So we'll come back to that, because I want to pick your brain on some things as I'm walking back into the industry and trying to get my head screwed on straight again. But appreciate your time. I appreciate you and what you guys are doing. Love that Prevail's still going strong. That's such a blessing to me, and I'm so thankful to have left it in such capable hands, and love what you guys are doing. So thanks for hanging. Thanks for who you are. Thanks for time, and I look forward to getting some more time with you again, and hopefully the relatively near future.
Yeah, no, likewise, 100%. It's kind of funny just doing this. I'm like, man, I feel like we're up in the loft at the old state. Just kind of going back and forth, and it's one of those just memories that will always be there. And just who knew what some of the conversations were going to be and where they were going to lead.
Yeah, so fun, dude. I appreciate it. Thank you all for joining in on the first real episode of Integrated the Podcast, and we hope that you got some value out of our time together today. And if not, I don't care. I got to hang out with Peter, and it was a good time for us anyways. All right.
You bet. Looking forward to part 2.